Wapi kelele ya waziri?
Behind closed doors in the heart of government corridors, an unexpected twist was brewing. It was Friday evening and Kenya was preparing for what was supposed to be a seamless swearing-in of Professor Kithure Kindiki as the country's new deputy president. But what unfolded was a high-stakes drama, a last-minute power play that would bring everything to a grinding halt. Until 9:30 p.m. on that fateful Friday, everything appeared to be going according to plan. The stage was set, and Kenya was about to witness the swearing-in of a new deputy president, Professor Kithure Kindiki, handpicked by President William Ruto to succeed Mr. Rigathi Gachagua. The political machinery was operating at full throttle, determined to have the new deputy president in office before Mashujaa Day on Sunday, October 20th. But what nobody saw coming was the legal storm brewing behind the scenes. Earlier that afternoon, a Kerugoya court had issued a surprising ruling, a court order to stop the swearing-in of Professor Kindiki. The ripple effects of this decision hit the State Law Office hard, sending shockwaves through the administration. The clock was ticking. By 3 p.m., top government lawyers, led by Attorney General Dorcas Oduor, were summoned in an emergency meeting. Their mission was clear: overturn the court order, fast. They were dispatched to the Court of Appeal in Nairobi with one goal: convince the judges to lift the suspension of the swearing-in. Meanwhile, political allies of the government confidently assured the public that Kenya would have a new deputy president by Sunday, as if nothing could go wrong. Behind the scenes, however, a battle was unfolding, a race against time that would decide the political fate of both Professor Kindiki and Mr. Gachagua. The stakes were high. Mr. Gachagua had been impeached by Parliament after facing 5 out of 11 charges for violating the Constitution and gross misconduct. Adding to the tension, Gachagua's health had taken a sharp turn for the worse. He had been rushed to Karen Hospital with serious chest pains the night before, just hours before he was to defend himself in front of the Senate.
Now propose the question. That aware that the National Assembly on the 8th of October 2024.
His absence only fueled the urgency to replace him swiftly, as the nation's political future seemed to hang in the balance.
Honourable members, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 42.1.
With the National Assembly voting in favour of Professor Kindiki and his inauguration set for Saturday at Uhuru Gardens, everything was moving at breakneck speed. The office of the President finalised the guest list. Military chiefs and police commanders were placed on standby, and state agencies were instructed to work overtime. The plan was to ensure that nothing could derail the inauguration. But just as the 9 p.m. news bulletin was about to air, everything crumbled. The government's legal team had failed to convince the Court of Appeal to reverse the Kirinyaga Court's decision. The dramatic turn of events left officials scrambling, as the realization set in that Saturday's grand ceremony was not going to happen. In a race against time, desperate calls were made to Chief Justice Martha Koome to authorize an emergency hearing outside working hours. Yet, despite the frantic efforts, the appeal court judges were hesitant. Without the Chief Justice's authorization, they refused to break protocol. With the swearing-in stalled, questions began swirling about what was really at play behind the scenes. Was this just a legal obstacle, or was there a deeper power struggle within the government that had yet to come to light? The dramatic turn of events has left everyone on edge, wondering how such a well-orchestrated plan could unravel so quickly. As the clock ticks and the fate of Kenya's deputy presidency remains in limbo, the political maneuvering behind the scenes continues to raise more questions than answers. As the clock ticked closer to midnight, the government faced a bitter reality. The swearing-in ceremony for Professor Kindiki would not happen as planned. Both Chief Justice Martha Koome and her deputy, Philomena Mwilu, were unreachable. The CJ had travelled out of the country, and despite frantic efforts to contact her, she could not be reached. The crisis meeting at the highest levels of government was going nowhere. The appeal judges were resolute. They would not convene at night. The decision to postpone the swearing-in became inevitable, The government, facing mounting pressure, had no choice but to accept that the inauguration of Professor Kindiki would be delayed until the courts cleared the legal roadblocks. Behind closed doors, a difficult consensus was reached. Kenya would have to wait. Why did the judges refuse to act? The reluctance by the appellate judges wasn't without precedent. Less than 7 years earlier, the country had witnessed a similar situation. On the night of October 25, 2017, just one day before the fresh presidential election, a High Court ruling by Justice George Odunga had threatened to derail the entire process. The Court of Appeal, led by none other than Martha Koome, Fatuma Sichale, and Erastus Githinji, had stepped in during a night session to overturn the decision. That intervention, while necessary to avert a constitutional crisis, left a mark on Kenya's judicial history. When Martha Koome was being vetted for the position of Chief Justice, her involvement in the 2017 ruling became a point of contention, with a petition filed against her. She defended herself, explaining that the decision was necessary at the time, but it had left a lasting impression. This was likely fresh in the minds of the current judges, many of whom were hesitant to repeat the same scenario. They refused to sit at night, and as a result, the swearing-in of Professor Kindiki was postponed. Justice Chacha Mwita's ruling on Friday had thrown a wrench into the government's plans. His order halted the appointment of Professor Kindiki until the court could determine the legality of Mr. Gachagwa's removal from office. The next hearing was scheduled for Tuesday, October 22nd, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Mr. Gachagwa's legal team had wasted no time. The court had certified his application as urgent and forwarded it to the Chief Justice, asking her to assign a panel of judges to tackle the constitutional questions raised by the impeachment. On Saturday, as the dust settled, Judiciary spokesperson Catherine Wambui remained tight-lipped, unable to provide an official statement on the Friday night chaos at the Court of Appeal. While the government was scrambling to inaugurate Professor Kindiki, Mr. Gachagua was fighting for his political survival. In his court documents, he labelled the entire impeachment process as fraudulent, accusing Parliament of acting on fabricated claims to oust him from office. He argued that his removal was unconstitutional, a sham that violated his rights. The former Deputy President was determined to block Parliament from installing his successor, labelling the rush to swear in Professor Kindiki as a mockery of the Constitution. As the legal battle intensified, Kenya watched, uncertain of how this high-stakes game of political chess would end. In a country where power is never just handed over, the behind-the-scenes struggle to install Kenya's next deputy president is far from over. As the court drama unfolds, one thing is clear: the forces at play are deep, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Will Professor Kindiki take the oath of office, or will Mr. Gachagua find a way to reclaim his seat at the helm? Stay tuned, because this political thriller is just getting started. This is Peter Tosh Williams, reporting for LifeLens TV. See you next time.